Can you speak to me a little about the role that you take with the Pixar projects and the selection of them, and how hands-on you are during the process of making the film?
Well, I have the lofty title at Pixar Animation Studios of being the Chief Creative Officer. What that really means is I oversee all things creative at the studio, and I love it. It's like, I always tell my sons, choose something you love to do and you'll never work a day in your life. That's what I feel. And so I get to direct movies, like I've directed Toy Story and A Bug's Life and Cars and, all that. But then I help other directors make their movies the best they could be. Pixar is a filmmaker-driven studio, not an executive-driven studio. So in the case of the movies that are directed by, not by me, by other people, like in the case of Brave, like Mark Andrews, I work with Mark and then I work with his team, production designers, the heads of story, the writers, the animation leads, the editor, all these people, and we work with them to help craft every aspect of the story to be the best it could be. And these are very long processes. On average, it takes about 4 years to make a film at Pixar. And every step of the way, I'm there helping them, advising them, giving them notes and stuff. And there's no mandatory notes at Pixar. Like, they don't have to do what I say or all the rest. But all the other directors come together to help each director make his film. And we call it the Creative Brain Trust. And it's about honesty. It's about helping. Because when you make these films, you get so close to them, and you want a fresh set of eyes to be able to have you step back and take a look at it. And so we work and rework and rework and rework the story till it's working fantastic. It's probably the most important thing.
It sounds as one of the things that makes a big difference is that you're all filmmakers yourselves, so you
Yes.
haven't got that thing of a producer or an exec who's very, very removed from the process. Is it ever frustrating to not just be able to get in and direct the thing yourself when you are so closely involved?
No, what's great about Pixar is unique in Hollywood, in that everybody, from myself on down, everybody has just dreamed all their lives of doing animation. It's not one of those where most other studios, executives and people find their way to this, and it's just kind of a job that's a stepping stone to a bigger, more prestigious something in Hollywood. No, that's not us. We want to be here. We want to make animated films. We love it. And it's so great because we really love working with each director, because the ideas come from these directors, and their teams, their story teams. And that's what's so unique, because typically Hollywood is an executive-driven studio, where an executive and the development executives all come up with the ideas and assign directors to those ideas. Not at Pixar. Pixar is about, I want the stories to come from the hearts of the directors. And therefore what happens is we put a lot of ourselves and our own experiences into these characters and these stories. And the fact that we're not based in Hollywood, Pixar is up in the San Francisco area. It's quite a ways away from Hollywood. That all of our lives outside of the studio is really like our audience. Our friends are not in the Hollywood, movie business. And so I think we stay grounded and we stay in touch with our true audience. And when we come into the studio, I think, as someone described us, they say they've never met a group of people that are more true to their art. Because everybody at Pixar and everybody working on a film, their goal is to make the movie the best it could be for our audience.
Sure. And you must have constantly people approaching you with projects that they want to make from inside and outside the company. What qualities stand out for you? What established Brave as a project that you really wanted to realize?
Well, first of all, we don't ever take any pitches from outside people.
Right.
It's only from internal. All of the Pixar films are original films created by the Pixar folks. And they're not based on any books or anything. And what I look for when I hear a pitch of a story from a director is I listen for for lots of things about. It's mostly like I just picture myself as an audience member and like, oh, how much fun would this be? But there's two main things that I listen for, and I look for in ideas. One, where is the emotion and the heart of the story going to come from? That's the first and foremost, because that is a core. That's the foundation of the story. It's the growth of the main character. How are they going to grow? Where's that going to come from? Number two, and this was kind of odd, but I think about the setting, you know? Because it's like you're going to ask your audience to sit for about an hour and a half to 2 hours watching this film, and you want to make it someplace that's really cool to be in, to be there, to experience, because we make our environment so believable to the audience that you want to make it sort of really fun. And those are the two things. The reason why I really look at those two things is that those things are really hard to change later. They're the foundation of what you start with. Then you layer on to that the story and plot and character and all that and the humor, and all that stuff will change and be tweaked and changed, but it's the heart and the setting are really at the core of what I look for.
So this setting appealed. Why? What was it about Scotland that attracted you?
Well, Brave, when it was pitched to me 7 years ago, I just was so excited about setting a story in Scotland because I love Scotland. I traveled here when I graduated college. I traveled all over Europe, but I ended up here in Scotland for about 2 weeks traveling around and fell in love with Scotland. And the people, the setting, the traditions, the magic, the stories, and the humor up here is just so fantastic. So it never left my heart. I really love Scotland. And so when this idea came to me, I thought, oh, this would be so fantastic. And I haven't seen anything in animated film set in Scotland like this. And especially medieval Scotland. We had never done a historically based story. And it's very challenging to do with a computer, something, because when you see the setting of Brave, everything that you look at has a sense of history, has kind of time. You see the time right there in front of you. And the computer likes to make things absolutely clean and perfect. And everything in the background of Brave is far from clean and perfect.
So you spent a lot of time making things look dirtier.
and have a sense of history and layers of moss, so this thing has been there a long time.
We know that there's a tradition in Pixar that you're very immersive about your research, and that the animators get very involved with whatever it is that they're trying to perfect at the time. So what was the research process like for Brave?
Well, I believe in research on every one of our films because I want. You don't know where you're going to get inspiration from, but you're going to get it, from the research. And so with Scotland, I insist that everybody hop on a plane and come over here and just spend time here and meet the people, see the sights, and just soak it in and talk about the history and the legends and the lore and all that stuff that's here. And so much of Brave came from those research trips that they came over here. The look of the film, the characters, the stories, the magic, in the film. It's all sort of inspired by what they found here. And it's really important, to be authentic too. So that I want families here in Scotland watch this film and go, wow, they really captured our country. They captured who we are. And it was very important also to get Scottish actors and actresses. And Kelly MacDonald, who does the voice of Merida, is so fantastic. She's from Glasgow. And we really encouraged her, for instance, to use slang. I don't know what these words mean, but it's okay. Because it sounds so authentic. It sounds charming and funny. And they're just really great words. And I think with Scottish people, it's like, oh my goodness, that's, it's true, it's real, it feels real.